Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, and artists all around the world. Today, I'm coming to you live on the ground at Consensus 2024 in Austin, Texas. It's a beautiful city. They have good barbecue here and have an awesome conference called Consensus. And today, I have another amazing guest. My guest is Lucas Folks, who is the Chief Product Officer at Helica. Lucas, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And also, you are right, the greatest barbecue in the United States.
I had some last night. It was good.
I like that.
So I would ask you first, what's your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. My background is a very diverse background, but I think it all kind of culminates into where I'm at right now. So when I first got out of college, I went to the University of Texas here, Hook 'em. But as soon as I got out, I founded an influencer marketing platform. It's the very first job I ever had that was post-graduation. And we ended up building that, growing it pretty quickly, got a lot of Fortune 500 customers, and then realized we were actually stuck on the data side of it. And so that was really our big gap, is we couldn't get the data together in a way that we needed to quickly enough. And so what we ended up having to do is close some really big contracts, need to fulfill them. We ended up selling to the largest competitor. It was all good, but lesson learned. After that, I went to a couple of different startups, one in real estate, one in oil and gas. Really got to see what 0 to 1 looks like. I was an early stage employee at both of them, and I saw each of them grow all the way through acquisition. And then that's where I actually ended up in gaming. So after that, I went into Zynga, where I spent 3 years. That's really where I got to hone the craft of gaming and analytics and optimization. And that led me through a couple other game studios, SciPlay, then Arty, and then I founded Helica. And so it's a very diverse background, but I think altogether, I can see where I learned things that are valuable to Helica at each stop along the way.
Oil and gas, gaming. What's the transition?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So what I've learned over the years is that data is just ubiquitous. The problems are all pretty similar. You can think of this vertical that they live in, whether it's gaming, whether it's oil and gas, the fintech startup I was at that I went early stage to acquisition, real estate, they all have the same problem, which is how do we make sense of all the data we're gathering and capturing in a way to start to optimize the behaviors of users, but also find more opportunity. It's great for marketing optimization, it's great for sales, it's great for in a game, it's great for tuning player experiences and difficulty curves and things like that. And so I think that's why it all makes sense, even though it's super diverse. I got to see it in so many different industries that now I can pretty confidently sit back and say it's all the same problem, slightly different nuances, slightly different takes, slightly different objectives, but it's really at its core, it's the same issue. It's data aggregation, data collection, data, making sense of the data, and then using that data for good optimizations that you're mathematically proving and testing.
So those four things, when I got into the industry, I had built databases for 20 years.
Oh, nice, okay.
Yeah, so I knew all this, right? And then I was competing against kids who just said, oh yeah, data's my thing, who didn't have any education whatsoever, and you couldn't prove, that they don't have the same skill set that you do. So how do you prove, that data process flow, that you have the understanding, you have the knowledge, your company's, good at it, or at least, sufficient, or I forget the word I'm going to use right now, but how do you prove that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a little bit of trust you have to build up front. At some point, you both have to say, I trust the words you're saying, and I want to watch, I'm going to jump off and take this leap with you and see what happens. One thing I will say, though, that I think is a little different, gaming has a very nuanced logic system, if that makes sense. If you've been in gaming, you can talk gaming, you know the business, you know the industry, you know what live ops is, you know how A/B tests run, you know what life cycle marketing is, all these things that matter that a lot of people outside of gaming wouldn't understand. And I think that's a big part of it, is my background is gaming. I'm kind of one of the only people inside my company that has that gaming knowledge. And so when we have these conversations, it's very clear to them, oh, you're really good at data. That's a given, but do you know gaming? And we have a couple conversations okay, you know gaming, let's go ahead and do this. And I think one thing that also makes it better is my co-founder and CTO, Corey, his background is AI optimization and large data systems. So he was at Lockheed Martin, Tesla, NASA. He's been literally everywhere. And then he's been in the last startup gamut for the last 6 or 7 years. And that's actually where we met, was at a fintech startup. So between us, we have a really good combination of skills that really leads people to understand okay, these people have not only done it, they've done it at a high level, and they can talk the talk and show us what we actually need to see.
Got it. Thank you. So Helica, what's it all about? How's it work? What's going on?
Yeah, Helica is a gaming infrastructure platform. So we really focus on analytics and insights, really distilling the data from raw data, and that's on-chain data, social data, in-game data, to actionable insights for the studios. And so what that looks like is, we'll index all of your on-chain data, make it all relevant to us, contextualized to a specific user. That means we can tell you what that user's interests are, what they're buying, what they're trading, what they like to do on chain. And then we also get all of their gameplay data. So we have an SDK that we put into their game, whether that's Unity, Unreal, web-based, and once they fire those events to us, we can map it all together to get a really holistic view of the user. So what are they doing in the game? What are they doing on chain? And then we also have a social component if the users want to opt into that platform that lets us go get that social data and really contextualize how involved are they, how active are they in our ecosystem, not just inside the game, not just on chain, and not just inside our Discord. And so that's really our approach. I think one thing that's interesting about what we're doing is we've pivoted from just analytics to now we are really the infrastructure platform. So we have a Helica Engage platform coming out soon. It's a questing platform that allows people to create battle passes, daily challenges, weekly challenges, really play to airdrop or hype marketing cycles that people in crypto like to do. But we've taken a different position, which is we'll actually allow people to go from play to airdrop to proper live ops, so scheduled on-off, scheduled daily challenges, weekly challenges, really getting it more towards a live ops platform, because play to airdrop is great for user acquisition. It's not really a long-term sustainable business model, and we wanted to give them the side that allows them to also start to generate revenue and drive engagement.
The Battle Quest game.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And you keep them engaged by how?
So what's cool is you can pick anything. You can ask them to do a certain number of actions inside your game. A great example I always like to talk about is imagine it was I come from a social casino background. Imagine it's a slot machine. Well, when a game builds a slot machine, or a company, a studio, of course you allow someone to spin a slot. That's easy. But usually in those slots games, there's a daily challenge of spin this slot or bet this amount in a day, earn these rewards. Building that is an entirely different engineering problem. It requires really strong state management, contextualized to the user. You have to keep track of every action. You have to keep a rolling count of what happens. And then when it happens, when they reach the point, you can trigger an action. Every time that changes, an engineer has to go in and make a change. Okay, today it's 100, or tomorrow it's 50. What we've done is we built a drag and drop UI that allows them, they're firing these events to us, they can orchestrate that state management through our platform without changing any code or doing anything. So it can, today it could be spin the slot machine 100 times, tomorrow it can be 250 times and bet 5 million coins. And the reality is they don't have to do any engineering work or change anything about how it operates. They can just piece it together. Another really cool thing about that is we allow for social questing as well. So go like this tweet, repost this tweet, follow these accounts, join this Discord, all of those things we're programmatically validating and verifying. And so really we get to a point where even on-chain actions can fall in. Go buy this asset. If you own this asset, your tiers you get a different multiple on the rewards. And so we really tried to build it the one-stop shop for Web3 live ops.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're excited. We're super excited about it. I think it's we've got 2 customers that are kind of testing it in alpha right now. They have some pretty sophisticated systems coming out that we're super excited about. But really in the next month or so, it'll be open to general public, and I think it's going to be really, really exciting.
Awesome. So you help and make improvements at each stage of the game life cycle. What are those stages, and what's your role and involvement in each stage?
Yeah, the way we like to think about it is there's some pretty clear stages, and people would debate what the stage is, but it's almost like pre-launch, ideation phase. You're getting everything together, you're trying to decide what your core loop is going to be. Then you go into an alpha stage, which is we might do some light testing. Really, we're probably doing more internal testing, seeing what it looks like. Is the game working? Are there core systems that are functioning? Then you go into beta, which is like, a little bit more sophisticated. There's more of the game there. The core loop is there. Hopefully there's a couple of features that you can start to validate. Open beta, which is like bring people in, and then launch. And the launch phase is typically where you start driving UA, really driving traffic to the game, trying to spend some marketing dollars to join. And each of those phases has like very specific technical challenges from a data perspective, and we try to address each of those pretty specifically.
Okay. So what would be some examples in each stage?
A great example is like when you're in the ideation phase. If you have a general idea, one of the things you're going to want to do is start to look at like what are competitors or whoever you've identified as competitors doing. With that, we can go index all of their contracts on chain, bring all that data in, let you know what does their retention look like, what does their monetization look like, are people trading these assets, how long are they being held, really give you some of the competitive knowledge that you need to make an informed decision. That's one example. When you get to the launch phase, we actually have our attribution platform. So as you're actually running referral campaigns, need to build live ops around it, all of that, we can really help you with each step of that. And so our attribution platform allows you to spin up links, build a referral network, so you can just post the page. Anybody can sign up, get their own link. When they refer someone, we know who referred them. You can reward the referrer. You can reward the referee. And one thing that's really cool about that is that's just one of the systems. So then the live ops can layer in, which is if you come from this source, these are the experiences you get inside of Helica Engage, which has different rewards, tiers, and systems that tied to it.
Cool. So what do you see as, like right now I have a Web 2 game that I play like all the time. My wife let's look at the bill last month. She was like, how did you spend $500 last month? I'm like, it's called Royal Match, and I get addicted to that. I'm like, okay, it's a gotcha game,
That's how they work.
That's how they work. What is the future of Web3 gaming as opposed to Web 2 games?
Yeah, just honestly, I think that's a fallacy. I think that's something we're hearing a lot in the industry, like what is the future of Web3 games? And my opinion is the future of Web3 games is that they are no longer called Web3 games. They're just games. And Web3 becomes part of the underlying infrastructure that's available for certain systems and certain utilities, just like AWS is or Google Cloud is or any of those different softwares people use. I think right now, the reason it's called Web3 gaming is we're still really early in this cycle. Like people lose the, if you look at the internet, it wasn't really popularized for a very long time. Like we're really just now getting to like, okay, everyone's using this, it all works really well, last couple of years. And Web3 is pretty nascent to that, especially in gaming. And so what I think happens is we'll see people build better systems, better platforms that make it easier to integrate Web3. A lot of the pain of being a Web3 engineer inside of a game studio will be abstracted away. There will be softwares that really make that easy to do and like kind of just part of core game building. And then I think Web3 will become a genre or like a category that it empowers the user to have some utility, some ownership, and they feel really connected to the game. And that'll be a new slice of the pie inside of gaming. But I don't think we'll see it as contrasted as this is traditional gaming, this is Web3 gaming.
So right now I see Web3. I see, I think that's good. I look forward to that. Right now I see three different. We just described the data. I see play to earn versus MMO versus what you just described.
Yeah.
What do you see taking off? What do you see? Do you see a combination of the three?
Yeah, there will be a combination in my opinion. One thing I actually love is play to earn is, in my opinion, one of the funniest things about Web3 gaming is that someone had the great idea of coining a system that has existed forever in gaming as play to earn. And it's kind of a logical fallacy. Yes, you are earning. The nuance is that it's real, but it's what a battle pass inside of traditional gaming was always meant to do. You play, you participate, you earn rewards for it. It's the same concept. The difference is the on-chain assets have actual liquid value. And so I think what we'll see is just kind of like the abstraction of that, and games will start building battle passes. Play to earn is like a early stage battle pass, which is like, in my opinion, a really good user acquisition strategy. It's probably not a sustainable business model forever unless you have another battle pass in there that at some point starts to monetize, starts to drive engagement referrals so that you're getting free traffic in UA. Like you have to have a balanced system here. You can't just give forever. And so that's the way I see it. And I think what will happen is we'll see, and you're right, those are three very distinct categories. I think we'll see those kind of consolidate down, which is what happened in traditional gaming. There were all these different genres, and then slowly the lines got blurrier and blurrier. I think that's what we'll see in the Web3 space as well.
And with your game, do you offer your passes and your rewards as NFTs? Will they have is there really a secondary market for that?
Yeah, I mean, so with our analytics platform, we kind of help advise people on what to do and what works and what doesn't. I think that's going to have to be a case-by-case basis. I think assets as NFTs is one way this will take shape. I do think there are some tokenomics that will be applied, which is there's a real economy inside of these game economies that has some value back to you, or at least volatility, like opportunity to win something big. Even if you're spending, no expectation of earning. I join a raffle, I see something cool. I think that'll be a category. I think the really big issue, or the big thing that's going to happen, is the niche of building a game and then bolting on NFTs and saying, I'm a Web3 game. I think that's going to go away. It's too low-hanging fruit. I think people are going to have to find ways that those NFTs actually mean something in the game. Their metadata, the interactions that they create in the game, the way they alter the game pattern and the play cycle is going to have to actually mean something. I don't think they can just be your character or your PFP. But that's where we're at right now, and I think we're definitely trending towards the latter direction very quickly.
So the high-hanging fruit is the fact that many studios are flying blind, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? How are they flying blind? How do you fix it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one experience I had that was very interesting is I spent a lot of time in Zynga, which is pretty largely considered one of the best data studios. They're very data-driven. Their data teams are very, very good. They are hyper-focused on optimization, building the perfect experience. After that, I went to SciPlay and I learned, they were a really good publicly traded studio too. I got to see a lot of what they were doing, some of the interesting stuff, and I got to write a lot of their A/B testing and learn a lot about their business, about the infrastructure. Then I joined a Web3 studio that was a startup, and I was like, surely they have some of these tools. What I learned is I had to build all of them from scratch. Everything there needed to have a custom solution. And what's hard about that is a game is only as sustainable as it is optimizable, in my opinion. You can build a really great core loop, but if you don't know what happens on D7 and you can't find out D7 of retention and you can't find out how to optimize that experience to get them to D30, you're going to lose, because you have to acquire users and you have to spend money. You have to be able to measure and incrementally improve every phase of the game. And flying blind is just an unsustainable business. Not knowing those nuances is an unsustainable business model in gaming because of the cost of user acquisition. It's a game of unit economics always. And that's really what we help do, is we built the entire infrastructure to bring that visibility to the Web3 studios. And we're really, I think, the first that have done this. There's other platforms that kind of do what we're doing, but nothing that gives somebody a holistic view of the user where you can measure and increment every single piece of the game.
Got it. So that knowledge of the user, a lot of games I've seen, people have created the game, and as soon as it's like driving the car off the lot, as soon as you created the game, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you you help develop things agilely, right?
Yeah. That's really, a game lives and dies by that. It's I remember when I was at Zynga, we would measure everything every day and decide what we do the next week, the next day, what needs to change to drive better outcomes. And I think that's something that you can only do if you build a really sophisticated infrastructure of measurement, and that's really what we have. And so to your point, it's like driving a car off the lot, some of these games. The problem is they're flying blind immediately. They go in, they spend a lot of money on user acquisition. They say, I hope 100,000 daily active users stick around, and then they all churn out. Well, now they've spent all their money and they don't have anything to show for it. And that's why we're really big fans of cadence-based releases. So bring something to the market, test it for a pretty low budget, look at the numbers deeply, understand what does your funnel look like from user acquisition to purchasing, from user acquisition and D30 retention. And if the numbers aren't good, go back to the drawing board. Don't go spend all your money on UA and hope the users stick around. The first wave of data will tell you if the users are going to be there. And if it says no, trust it. Don't just throw money down the hole.
That sounds like smart.
Yeah, I mean, it does, but I think it's something that, like, we see people do it all the time, and it's interesting because it's not like building just an app. Like, people are there for the engagement component. There's really not an active utility in it. Like, not in the way that people say Web3 utility. Like, there's utility from the assets, but they want it for engagement and fun. If it's not fun and it's not engaging, they're not going to stick around. Now, you might be able to pay them to stick around, but we've seen that model not work. The play to earn at scale eventually falls off unless you can turn the content cycle over and make it engaging enough. And to be honest, that's a bet I wouldn't make of having to do it before you run out of money. It's almost better to just build a good game and then bring users.
Yeah, it's not sustainable to pay them to stick around.
Exactly. You can't just keep doing that forever. Unfortunately, I wish people would. I would play games for money all day.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. And I have a last question.
Okay.
How can people find out more information about you, about Helica? How can they get that? How can they participate? How can they join, take part? How can they do that?
Yeah, my name's Lucas Folks. On Twitter, I am just Lucas, Lucas, Folks, Fulks. You can look at our website, helica.io. We also have Twitter, Helica Analytics, and Helica Gaming. So would love for anybody with any questions to reach out. This is something I talk about all day, every day. Obviously very passionate about it. And so if anyone wants to have a conversation, I'm your man.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.